Welcome, everyone, to the Holstein House podcast. I'm the West Virginia woman, Robin, of RobinHolstein.com and Holstein House, where my guests get a great night's sleep at a fair rate plus breakfast. This is a podcast that looks at society and culture issues affecting families in West Virginia and the United States, from food preparation and storage, gardening, home repairs, current events, and more. We'll go around the table and back in 60 minutes or less. So let's hang out and talk a while. Oh, I know, it's crazy out there. Good morning, all y'all. How are you? I am Robin from Holstein House, and this is the Holstein House broadcast. This is the 135th episode, and it's October 4th, 2024. And I want to welcome you. Everybody who's here. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I had to dart over there a minute and then come back, and I thought I had plenty of time to make it. I just did squeak by, so I'm glad to see you guys here. Glad to welcome everyone on the audio only, the podcast out there, and hope that you guys will send us a message. Let us know what you think of the broadcast overall. Those of you guys who are in Rumble or on Facebook or YouTube, I hope you guys will say hello and let me know what you're thinking this morning. The Holstein House broadcast is answering your questions on hosting a B&B from your home, your pantry, your food preparation and storage questions, and more. And today, we're going to catch up on the end of the year garden stuff for 2024, hurricane season and recovery and all of the insanity that's going on around it. We'll talk a little bit about Israel if we have time. I have some good thoughts, good strong opinions about that. Dogs and cats and chickens and ducks and more, and we're really glad to have you this morning. Let me do this real quick. I want to make sure that I can see the folks who might happen to stop in, and that would be you. And I hope it looks like my signal is kind of weak. Hopefully that's not the case. I have it. Oops, I'm going to knock everything over here. Hopefully there's no, I should never have touched that. I should have just have left it alone. Have you ever had those? I started off this morning dropping the dog food bowl on the floor after I had mixed up the dry food and the wet food. I apologize for that big arm in your way for those of you guys who were on the video, but it's hard to stream from the bunker here because the signal is just not that strong. It's really just not that strong. So I bounce back and forth between using the Wi-Fi and using the hotspot on my phone. If I was to directly plug into the server, not the server, but the Wi-Fi box, instead of using the Wi-Fi, it would be a lot stronger, but I don't have cable that long. So that's just how it goes. But we're glad to see everybody here this morning. Don't be sure and say hello. Don't forget to click your thumbs up or your likes or whatever is on your the application that you're watching us or listening to us on, and be sure and say hello. Share it out so that other folks can find us, and subscribe if you haven't already done that. So it's the end of the growing season for 2024. It is October 4th, and my season is still kind of dragging on a little bit. I worked out in the garden quite a while yesterday, cleaning up some stuff and taking down all of the fencing I have around the garden. I've had this 4-foot poultry wire fence with those temporary, those plastic temporary fence post things that you can get at the box stores, and I think most box stores have them. Farm Supply, Garden Supply, those kind of things, and they're not made to use forever because they're plastic and they degrade over time. But they're really easy for me to use. I don't need a T post pounder thing. I can just use those and string up with some a little bit of wire or some zip ties, and I can put enough of a boundary around the garden to keep the chickens and the ducks and the dogs and the cats and stuff out. It's not enough for deer. I don't have an issue with deer. There haven't been deer down here in our community in geez, decades as far as I know. We do have possum, we do have groundhog, we do have raccoon. Um, I think we've seen some coyote. Haven't seen any this year. Haven't heard anybody reporting any coyote. We do have a neighbor who likes to let their dogs loose and then claim that people open their gate. But in order to open the gate, which they have video cameras all over the place, but they never post pictures of the people who are supposedly opening the gates. I think they're letting them loose. We live in an unincorporated area where people can do that. I'm not a big fan of rules like that. But what it is, it's not just a dog. They have plural dogs. They have a small pack of dogs. We're talking, I think, 5. And they are medium-sized breeds or mutts. I don't know that. I think one looks like a German Shepherd. I'm not sure if it is or not. The rest of them just kind of look like some kind of mixed mutt. And they travel around together as dogs will do in a pack. And they get in people's trash and they scattered it all over the community. We've had multiple pictures of these animals in people's trash. And the owners resist. They'll make half-hearted attempts at keeping them up. But they're the same dogs, I think. I mean, I really believe that killed my ducks and my chicken. I can't prove it, but I think it's the same one. Anyway, so those are the kind of predators that we have here. That I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about, I mean, we've seen bear cub before, but I mean, bear's not getting in my garden. So I don't have to worry about that. But I took down all the fencing yesterday, every stick of fencing. I did restake some of my tomatoes because my tomatoes are still producing. They're kind of not producing well, but they're still producing. There's still some green tomatoes on, and I'm just going to let them hang on until frost or until they just quit, whichever happens first. Usually our first frost, I think, is by October 20th. So I've only got a couple weeks anyway. And I'm not going to try to fool with a greenhouse or any kind of attempts to extend the season because now that I have expanded the chicken run to the point that I need to reevaluate how I do my garden, and I'm constantly doing that. So I got all that down. I got that cleared up. I did collect up a bunch of tomatoes that were ready. Of course, the Jersey Devils that I'm just so fond of. I mean, that plant has been huge, really huge. And if I can find some of those square tomato cages, instead of the traditional round cone-shaped ones, I want to get some of the square ones. I want to get them on sale, though. I don't want to have to pay that price that they ask for. During the season, or I can make some of my own. It's just, I just don't usually have time to do that. But anyway, if I can find some of those nice large square ones, I may exclusively grow Jersey Devils next year. I'm not 100% sure, but I just loved it. And I have saved seeds, and I'm going to be sending seeds out to some of the folks over on Telegram, Julie and some of the other ones over there, and share that with them, and we're going to like do a swap, kind of a seed swap. So we'll see how that works out next year. I think I'm going to get some tromboncinos. I think that's how you pronounce it. Next year. They're a squash and they get gigantic. They're used, I think, more for feed instead of human consumption, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But so the garden has been successful this year. Our peppers didn't do quite as well. I blame that. It couldn't be my fault, could it? I blame that on the tremendous heat that we've had this year that just kind of stunted the plants and stunted the growth. And I did water every day, almost every day. And I did good watering, not just a little couple squirts with the water hose. I did deep watering as best I could. I have rain barrels. I kept those full. What little bit of rains we would get would tend to fill those barrels back up, and I was able to deep water the plants. But either they didn't like where I put them, they didn't like the containers they were in, or a combination of all of the above. They just did not produce much at all. So the candy cane peppers that I got, I mean, I didn't get good, nice. You know how you get the sweet peppers at the store, the tricolored ones, red, orange, and green ones, and they're about the size. They're a little bigger than your fist. Mine didn't even get that big, so they didn't do well. The plants didn't die, but they just didn't produce. The oh, black magic peppers, they didn't do very well at all. My regular sweet peppers, green ones, didn't do very well. So I really didn't get much of anything. I did dehydrate what little bit I got because they weren't enough to do anything with at one go. So we did get that done. I'm trying to think of the tomato. Oh, what's the name of that tomato? Midnight indigo rose tomato. Just didn't like anything. It just had one skinny little stem, maybe 5 tomatoes the whole year. I thought maybe it was going to pull out and rebound because it started acting like it was going to perk up after the really bad heat of the summer, but it just hasn't done much at all. I really even didn't get any seeds from it because it just didn't produce. I think there's one tomato out there that I might be able to take and get some seeds out of and maybe try it again next year. I have been able to save a lot of seeds from the plants that we've had. Oh, but the Jimmy Nardello peppers, that thing really did. It just really produced well. I did use it in some sauces and stuff. I didn't notice a big difference in it than a regular green sweet pepper. I tried roasting it, but I'm not any good at that, and I ended up charring it more than I roasted it, so I never got that dialed in very well either. But they did nicely overall. I mean, the Jimmy Nardello pepper and the Jersey Devil tomato, just absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved what we did. The squash did okay. I was able to keep the squash bugs at bay 90% of the year with just the looking for the squash bugs, looking for the seeds, and using the dish soap and mouthwash rinse on it until it got to where I was so busy I couldn't keep up with it, and then I kind of lost that battle because I wasn't able to be out there every day. Well, I was out there every day, but I wasn't able to spend that much time with them every day. So I want to. Do I have? Let me think. I shouldn't tap on that table. It's probably being picked up. I was thinking I had a picture I wanted to show you. It flashed through my brain that there was a picture I wanted you to see. Let me think of the garden. And oh no, I know what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you a picture of the run. I don't think I showed you the run since I moved it all. I went out. I did buy an additional section, so now I have 3 sections. One is a really large piece, and then the other 2 are like 10 by 10s. And so I have the first one is almost like a double, like a 10 by 20. I'm going to see where this picture is. That I had. Did I have that out already? That's not it. Here it is. Let me see if I can share this with you. Present, share screen, window here. Let me share this with you. And let me see how it is. I want this one, I think. No, I want this one. That's the one I want. So this is this is what I've done. I'm going to expand this. Hopefully it will expand in your window as well. And for those of you who are on the audio only, I'm showing a picture of my the way I've changed the run. It previously, if you can see my mouse pointer here, over on this side I had the run, and it was up against, and this was my short-sightedness because, you know, it's just me. The run was up against the fence, which I thought, oh, that's great. That's fine. It'll work real well. But it didn't, because I needed room over here to run a lawnmower or weed eater. I didn't have that. And so weeds were coming through the poultry wire, and just, it was a battle, and I just couldn't keep up with it. So it also was sloping over the hill, which was fine for a little while until the neighbor's dogs. And the neighbor's dogs were able to get underneath on that slope, and well, it just got ugly. So I moved, knowing that I was going to be picking up some new ducks and chickens. I purchased this over here. You can see it's a blue run. The advertisement, I got it from Amazon, and I don't get any money for telling you that. This one is not the same as this one, but the Amazon listing calls it a chicken coop. And if you know what you're doing, you know that's not a coop, because a coop is enclosed. It's where they sleep. You wouldn't use this. A predator can get in this very easily if they want to, if you're in an area that has a high pressure predator. So this wire, the poultry wire that's on this, is very thin. It is coated. This happens to be coated with blue. It's hard to see, but it's coated with blue. But it's still not strong enough to keep a serious predator out. It will keep your chickens in. It will keep a nosy predator out, but it won't keep a serious predator out. They can tear this up. And it's, as these little things you might notice here, those are zip ties. They're white. They come with it. It was a little over $100, and of course Amazon Prime reduced shipping fees. It came with the tarp, and it is easy. It really is easy to put together. You have to think it through though, because the directions are they're okay, but it's easy to have things turned around. Like you need your corner pieces turned just so, and it doesn't tell you that. But anyway, it's okay. But all of these aluminum frame runs are about the same. They're very easy. They do come from overseas, but they are very easy for the average person like me to put together. The challenge is getting the wire over, over this top piece here, but it can be done. You can do it. I did it. It's not impossible. Obviously I did it. So what you're seeing here, this is the new one. This is the second one I bought, and in this background you can't see very well. You might could see this post. This post here is the door for the original run that I bought, and then I bought this one later on, and then I bought this one a few weeks ago. This is the Rubbermaid storage building that I use for my coop, and we've talked about this before, that it is very hot in the summer, and it was very hot on my birds this year. I do have a vent cut here and here, and I have vents in the back in the triangle shape that's in the back part, so there's airflow there. The windows, I took out the windows and put hardware cloth in the windows for air circulation. I have a hole cut. You can't see it from here, but I have a hole cut so that with a poultry door that they can come in and out of. And I have a piece of stainless wire that I use to lift that up so that I don't have to go in and do that. And I can fasten it. So I open it up and they all come out and have a good time right in through here. So this run here, I did not put the poultry wire on the back of it, so I fastened it to the front of the other one. I still have the door there, so I can section this off if I need to for some reason. And I have one giant tarp across all of the pieces here. Now here I also have a small hole cut and have it zip tied together really tight so that they can go over to this side. Now I started the ducks. When I got the new ducks, I started them off over here and kept them isolated a little bit. I don't have enough room to have like 100 yards or whatever it is they tell you, because you're supposed to keep them isolated so they're not passing diseases back and forth. And so they don't start attacking each other. But so this is the old original chicken coop that we had, and I modified it here a while back. And so I have this all hooked together. And that's what I was going to show you that I did. So over here on this side is the garden. And when I added this piece, the new blue piece, it butted up against the fence on this side of the garden. So I had to start making changes to that then. So there's that. It does take a little while to put those things together, and there's nothing wrong with it. I like those because if I change my mind in the way that I need to arrange those things, it's no problem. I can change them. And it's easy for me. And that's the thing, it's easy for me. So I enjoyed that, getting that realigned, and I need to redesign my garden because the garden area is not going to be the same next year. So, let's see, what was I gonna? So the backyard. That's what I did that this past week. I got that cleared up. So I'll be moving the containers either. I'm gonna have to watch. I'm not sure when our first frost is actually predicted. Average is October 20th, but I'm not sure when it's actually predicted. I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I'll be taking those plants out, and I have to decide where to store the containers. And I'll be mending the soils that's in them, because when you container garden, your plants suck all the nutrients out of that soil. It's not like, out in your yard where they can grow deeper roots. You need to amend your garden soil too, but in your container garden, you need to do that. I purchased some mulch on sale at the box store a couple of weeks ago. I'll be doing that, and I'll be covering them over with cardboard. And so through the winter, that will hold in moisture. It'll let the bacteria grow. I'll have some topsoil I'll put on there as well. And so I'll layer it. They call it lasagna style, but you just layer stuff. You layer a little bit of topsoil, or if you use peat, it just depends on what you're growing, what you want to do, topsoil or peat. And then some mulch, and then some cardboard. And if you have a big enough place, you're going to do that more than one time. But I don't have that much space, so I won't have to do too much of it. But I'll amend that. I'll do that. And then I have to find a spot to store those. I didn't think that through when I started my containers, because my backyard looks like a third world nation with all the junk that's back there. But I'm not running any contests for best lawn in the neighborhood. We have our, I'm kind of changing gears here just for a minute. We have our long-term guest. She's back, but she's not here this week because her parents live in Mingo County, West Virginia. And Mingo County, West Virginia was also affected by Hurricane Helene, and her parents' place got flooded. I haven't talked to her since last weekend, but I'll be reaching out to her today to see how things are going, to see if they're doing okay. They ended up staying with her, so she didn't come and stay with us last week. And we've been busy taking care of stuff like that and getting the vehicles ready for the winter. And so it's been a busy week. So I've had the calendar closed for the week. I really should have opened it for this weekend, but I didn't. I may have it open for next weekend, but we'll see. Speaking of the backyard, I'll switch back there, jumping all over the place. Let me show you that fence. Oh, I need to put the link for Caleb's company. The fellow that did our fence has a company called Lawn Overdue. And Lawn Overdue, he's new at business. I don't think he's he might have been in for a year by now, but I don't think he has been. So we were talking about the back fence, and this is a picture of Bob for those of you who are on the audio. Bob is looking over. There's a knoll right here, and you can't see. There's no shadow, so it looks like it's one flat spot, but it's not. There's a drop right through here that you cannot see. And it's from where the yard was disturbed a long time before we bought it to put the public sewer through. So all of this was torn up at one point for that. But so we have a significant little drop here. And then if for those of you who are looking, this tree stump here is right at the edge of our property line. And there's probably about, I don't know, 8 inches worth of a spot between this this dead tree stump and this fence that is actually ours. But in order to put the fence in and to have it without, stacking tons of cinder blocks or ties or whatever, we pulled the fence in a few inches so that it could be flat across the bottom. And long overdue, Caleb came up with a great idea of using these panels. Now, what I needed a fence that was high enough that not only my dogs couldn't jump out, and the neighbors, this is where the dogs from that I think killed my chickens and ducks came from, this yard back here, can't jump in. And, one thing, if Bob took a notion, and Bob could do that, before the fence that was there before, he could jump across, but he couldn't get back in because there's a little bit of a steep slope back here. So if he was up here against the fence, he couldn't hop back in, but he could hop out. Anyway, so he's talking to Caleb about doing this, and he is not skilled with chain link. But we got to talking about how tall we needed this back fence, and we decided these are dog kennel panels and T-posts. He took these panels, and I forget how many there are, and set these T-posts in concrete, and he put these panels in. And this works perfectly for us. It keeps just about anything from coming into the back part. And because of the way our backyard is, it's up against an alley, the neighbor's yards. You can see these trees, some of these trees and weeds and bamboo and stuff is actually in the alley. The neighbor's backyard is grown up here. The neighbor on further this way has their backyard trimmed up. It was never allowed to grow out of control. This yard was left, the backyard was left for years, so they've got a long time to get that cleared out. But anyway, it keeps people and animals from getting in from the back, and it also keeps my chickens from flying over. I have terrible trouble with the chickens right now. Even with their wings clipped, they can get across the front yard fence, and we're going to work on that too. We're not going to have this same thing, but we're going to work on getting a little taller of a front yard fence. But it's going to be more standard fence than this. I saw some at the local box garden center store and home supply store that I liked, and I talked to Caleb about it, and we're going to work on a plan on that. But this is the fence that Caleb put in, and he did a great job with it. He did some concrete. It's not technically a footer, I guess, because it's under the fence, but there's concrete under the bottom of the fence here, so to discourage things from digging to get in or to get out. So Bob and Betty are kind of stuck right there, so they have to stay in the yard, and they like to get out. We all like to get out. They're no exception. So that was the backyard. I think, let's see, what else was I going to show you about? I don't know why that one's there, because there's that. All right, so I've been telling you about what's going on here. I talked about the garden already with you. Let me tell you a little bit about the livestock we've got here, chickens and ducks. I have not ventured into rabbits yet. I think some of you may remember that a while back I talked about maybe doing rabbits. I kind of not ready for that still. I'm still not quite ready for that. But I did pick up some new ducks and chickens. I'll show you the chickens first. These are the new girls. These the new girls are around. Well, all of mine are around 10 weeks ish or so. These came from a lady in Raleigh County. So it was about a 45-minute drive over to pick them up. What you can barely see them, but these two are Jersey Giants, and these two are Rhode Island Reds. So I picked up 4. They're pullets. They're 10 weeks old ish. And they're already out in the blue section of the run. They are growing fast. They're eating like they've never had food before. They're just absolutely gobbling up their chick feed. I didn't have any chick feeds when I first brought them home, which was an oversight of mine. Should have picked them up. But so I was giving them regular all flock food for a couple of days, and then I picked them up some chick feed. So they're doing much better now with their chick feed, but they're learning already. It only took 2 nights of me putting them into the coop and locking them up for the night for them to realize, hey, this is where I'm supposed to go. So 2 nights there, I was really happy about that. I didn't have to fight with them too hard. Now the next step will be, once they're big enough to integrate with the other animals, the other poultry, then getting them used to a new coop instead of going back to that one, because that one, as it gets colder and the food gets more scarce, is not going to be safe from raccoon. Right now we're in good shape. We don't have any sign of raccoon being around anywhere. When that usually happens is when it starts getting really cold. Really cold. So by then the girls should be big enough. These girls should be big enough to go in with the other girls, and that will be great. Now let me show you the ducks. We did also got new ducks. These are the new ducks. What we have here, they're also about 10 weeks old. Just going by what Yolanda told me. Yolanda was a classmate in high school. Her husband and I were in the same graduating class at DuPont. And Yolanda reached out to me and she says, I remember that you were looking for ducks. And I said, yeah. And she says, I have some. They're mixed because she keeps all her ducks. She has some beautiful breeds, but ducks are ducks. And so they're all intermixed. And she had this mama, I think it was this mama here, hatched out a couple, and she had a couple of nests before that didn't do very well, but then she hatched out these two, this black one and this gray one. And we think the black one's daddy is a runner, an Indian runner, because Yolanda has some of those. I don't know who the daddy of the gray one is. He's got a little puff ball on top of his head. And I say he because he doesn't quack. He makes that hoarse, raspy sound that male ducks make. And sister duck here, she's already quacking. So unless this is a late starter, this is a guy. This is a drake. And I hate that because I don't want any drake. I'm going to have to watch him very carefully to make sure he doesn't get on my chickens, because drakes who try to mate with chickens will kill the chicken. And it's not a matter of drowning them. It's a matter of damaging them and they die from it. So I don't want to take him out. I don't want to harvest him, but I can't. I got to be really careful. The last drake I had left my hens alone. This guy right here, he's a baby. He may not leave him alone. So I'm going to have to watch him very carefully. So this is another female. She's just grumpy. and I don't know the exact age of these two girls. I think they're a couple years old apiece. Right now, they're not laying. This girl hasn't started laying because she's too young, but she should be laying here within the next few weeks. These two ducks tend to not lay in the winter, kind of like chickens, but they kind of start sooner. And there's also an issue of molting. When they molt, ducks or chickens, when they molt, they don't generally lay. So I don't have any duck eggs at all right now. I'm just 100% feeding the beast. So I'm anxious because I had someone who was sincere that if I got more ducks, she would buy the eggs. And I said, well, I will get them and we'll see what happens. And so far we're not having any eggs, but hopefully that will remedy itself before much longer. So that's the new addition to the poultry house, the 4 chicks and the four ducks. My old girls, my old chickens are still kind of plunking. I'm getting and 1 egg every day, 2 eggs most days, and 3 eggs on occasion, because I have the 2 Isa Browns and the Leghorn, and they're still laying. The Easter egger is not. She hasn't laid anything since late spring. She's done that before, so it's normal. She acts kind of egg bound. Then she doesn't lay. Then she molts. She doesn't lay when she's molting. And then come springtime, I hear this weird, she almost sounds like a dog barking when she lays. You know how chickens always announce that they've laid an egg. She is freaky because I heard this noise. I thought, what's going on? And she'd laid. This was last spring. And she hadn't laid forever, and I thought she was done. But so I'm still getting an occasional egg from them. And that's why I went ahead and got the other 4 girls, because I need to be, I've got a couple buyers, and I don't want a giant flock. That's about all that eight's about all I can handle there, but we'll see how that goes. So they're all the new ducks and the new chicken. Well, no, the ducklings and the chicks are about the same age, but you see how huge difference in size. The older ducks are all about, well, no, my pecans probably 5 years old. I'd have to look that up. I don't remember, but she's up there. She's the last of my original poultry. When I first bunch I bought 4 chicks and 2 ducklings, and the 2 ducklings were female pecans, and she's the last one left of that batch. So I think that's it as far as stuff that's going on around here. I kind of didn't want to spend too much more time on that. Be sure to say hello and hit the like and all that stuff when you stop in, and so that I can know that you're out there and I can say hello back. I think I've got all that covered. I'm pretty sure that that was all the stuff that was going on here. I do want to talk a little bit about some current events. I try not to spend a lot of time on current events because there are so many other podcasters and content creators and stuff just just all over the place. You can talk about this. You can listen to people talk about current events anywhere. Everybody's got current events going on. But I really felt that it was important to kind of touch on that a little bit today, so that it didn't seem like I was ignoring it. It's out there and it's serious. And I'll start off with Hurricane Helene. It is soaking up all the oxygen in the room right now, and as it should be. It is probably one of the biggest natural disasters that we've had in this portion of the United States. I don't know, at least since Katrina. And I remember Katrina. I remember I was still here. I was in West Virginia. But I remember Katrina. And Katrina caused the devastation down in New Orleans and down through there. It had a little bit of different path. And so portions of West Virginia got quite a bit of water off of Katrina. And what was that, 2001? Was it 2001 Katrina came through? It escapes me now. I should have had that written down. I was working at the State Conservation Agency when Katrina came through, and I ended up working on during some of the emergency recovery work. I was tasked frequently to the Emergency Operations Center at the time, located in the basement of the West Virginia Capitol in Charleston. They've since moved the EOC out into another community, but when I was there, it was in the basement of the Capitol. And all of the emergency organizations were there. FEMA was there. The Corps of Engineers was there. The different state agencies that were involved were there. Highways, DHHR, which at the time was combined. Human Services and Human Resources were all combined at the time. You had the American Red Cross. You had who else was there? There was a lot more there. Power companies, utilities were represented by someone there. I can't remember who it was, which organization it was, but so there was a massive coordinations effort, but the Capitol itself had not been damaged. So they were all able to meet there, and they were all able to coordinate services, even with the feds. So, and the feds at that point was primarily FEMA. I'm sorry, allergies is kicking in again. So I wasn't firsthand on the ground, mind you. I'm not saying that I was on the ground and saw the devastation. I was working the Emergency Operations Center, and I saw firsthand the coordination of the different agencies together. And we had computers linked, and there was a PR representative, and we'd give briefings to the governor. So I knew what was going on all the time. Weather Service, National Weather Service had a representative there. So they were, they could watch the storm when we had just tremendous technology. We had big walls of monitors, and one wall would have, some state information about where damages were, where blockages were. Highways had a list of roads that were closed or open. The Weather Service had their satellites, and it just was a tremendous operations there. And you talked to each other, and you knew what was going on. And I could say, well, the Conservation Agency has 16 reports of stream blockages in Raleigh County, on this particular creek or at this particular place. And they're going to send a crew down with a backhoe, and they're going to lift all that debris out. And we need to coordinate with highways. Highways would say, well, we'll send, this truck down to pick up the debris. And then they had a designated dump site for the woody debris and the stuff that could be burned, and they would have, it would be like kind of like on a strip mine. And so there would be this big site where they would burn the woody debris to get rid of it. Corps of Engineers would talk about roads, highways, flood control structures, dams, locks. We like on the Canal River, we've got a series of locks. Well, what you have, and you've seen some of these pictures from down in North Carolina, where it's just this debris is floating on top of the water. Well, all that debris backs up. It gets to the locks or the dams or even a bridge abutment, and it starts backing up, and it puts weight and it puts pressure on all this stuff, and it has to be removed so that it doesn't collapse whatever it's backed up against. And so there's this constant juggling, this just, and it's very intense and very stressful. And EOC ran 24 hours a day. Now, I didn't have to be there all that amount of time, and the Conservation Agency didn't have people there overnight, but there were people in the EOC 24 hours. And we had, hey, Julie, good to see you. 2005. Yeah, you're right. It was in 2005. I lose track of time sometimes. I probably have early onset something It keeps me from realizing. I'm glad you was able to stop in. I know you don't always get to stop in on the lives. Usually pick it up on the podcast. But what we're seeing down in North Carolina right now, and this is just from my perspective, from my experience having worked with the State Conservation Agency, we're all very frustrated, I know, because it doesn't appear that FEMA's doing much. Of course, they've already said, oh, we don't have any money. And that's a whole different conversation. But one of the things that we're seeing down there is just it appears not to be a very well coordinated disaster recovery event. It appears that for whatever reason, these different smaller organizations, and I'm going to encourage you to donate. If you're going to donate cash, look up Samaritan's Purse. I'll have a link to Samaritan's Purse down in the description later. I'll add it. I didn't have it when I set the live stream up because they do wonderful things. They do wonderful things. Samaritan's Purse does. There's no controversy that I'm aware of surrounding Samaritan's Purse. But it doesn't look like what's going on down there is very well coordinated at all. But you also have to stop and think of the massive devastation. The interstates were just completely blown out. It's not like they can just go through and put a little bit of gravel bed down and re-concrete or blacktop the roads to patch them to get through this disaster. These things are gone. They've been scoured away up to the side of the mountain. Let me see if I can... I've got the Samaritan Purse website up because where I had grabbed the address where I wanted to link to show to put the link. And what I want to do is I want to use their page. I don't want to do a video. Let's see. Okay, not that one, not that one, not that one. I'm trying to get a good picture of. I'm not going to have one. I wanted to get a good picture of the water there's a picture somewhere of the debris in the water, and it's just the amount of acreage. Let me think, where is a good, I could just do, let me see if I can grab a picture here just to help you understand what I'm talking about, this debris. There are a ton of pictures. Let me see. Images. I want one looking down. I know what I'm trying to think. Looking down on the river with the debris in it. And I'm not going to find it quick enough, I don't think, because there's just tons of pictures with like the path and but the amount of debris that is, I mean, whole communities are just wiped away, and there's such frustration with the slowness. And I mean, we're more than a week out. There should be a better organization of recovery efforts. I mean, we're seeing stories of darn. It's locked up here. I have to close that one. Hopefully that didn't lock up on your end, but there's just such tremendous debris building up down there. It's going to take and it's going to end up floating past me. But and this is something that we don't think about a lot, the downstream impacts. What's going to happen here? The New River out of North Carolina, it starts down in there, and that flood water it's counter to what you think, because you think, well, water runs downstream, and it does. But in this case, um, the New River runs north. Okay, it runs north, and the New River um, runs to the Bluestone Dam. The Bluestone Dam's in West Virginia, and of course, it goes through a lot more than that. I'm just talking about from my perspective. The Bluestone Dam in Mercer County, West Virginia, held back a lot of the flood water to keep downstream Kanawha River from flooding. But all this debris is floating down, and they have to open the locks. They have to let this debris go through the locks. I mean, it could damage the locks. So they open the locks, they let this stuff flow down. It's not going to be much longer before we start seeing debris floating down the Kanawha River that came out of the destruction in Virginia and North Carolina, because of the way that river travels. And it's just so, I wish I could have found a good picture of that water. Let me look one more time, because it's really hard for me to describe when you're looking down from a helicopter, or even with a drone. Of course, I know they were talking about people's not supposed to be using drones, which is another story. The federal government apparently has decided that average citizens trying to help are not allowed to fly drones. It's a violation of the FAA laws and stuff. And I don't know anything about the FAA other than it can be a pain in your hind end when you're trying to deal with something like this. Darn. I wish I could find those pictures that are in my mind. But anyway, all of this water it flows. It's called a watershed. Not everybody's going to understand. It's not that you can't understand it. It's just that you've never had to understand it before. Water flows through a watershed into a river. That river is part of the watershed into another river. So Kanawha River is part of the watershed to the Ohio River. Ohio River is part of the watershed into the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is part of the watershed into the Gulf of Mexico. So some of this flood water is going to be coming from the New River into the Kanawha River, into the Ohio River, which the Ohio River's already got some, because there were counties along the Ohio River that were also flood impacted by Helene. Then that's going to all turn down, and it's going to flow into the Mississippi River. And the Corps of Engineers is they're part of their job is waterways, these navigable waterways where large boats, not just little canoes like lakes and stuff that you can get on, but the larger boats travel. So it's interstate commerce kind of stuff. So they operate the locks and dams. They can open or close and raise and lower the levels of water on either side of the locks or dam based on how they open these up. Oops, sorry. So this water is coming down, and the Corps of Engineers has got to coordinate letting water out and stopping it, letting water out and stopping it. And when they open that up, then debris flows out and it flows down. And that was one of the federal agencies that we had to work with in the EOC. I don't see much coming out in the news, let me put it that way, coming out from the Corps of Engineers. But that should be wrapped up in the FEMA news briefs. If you think about when Katrina happened, there were briefings from FEMA every stinking day. President Bush got blasted because he flew over instead of putting his feet on the ground down in New Orleans. And the idea was that it was such a tremendous disaster that the the emergency operations folks didn't need to be distracted with him being there, because when the president goes somewhere, these big entourage, you got to plan your routes and you got to be secure and all this stuff. But he got blasted by the media. Well, the media is not blasting anybody now, unfortunately. And there's no FEMA briefings. We were seeing FEMA briefings all the time. Remember, those of you remember all the people that they stuffed into this football stadium and how awful that turned out? It it baffles my mind that we're not seeing more out of the federal government. Mayorkas should be removed from his position. Okay, he has dropped the ball. You're hearing stories about people and animals in trees. Well, of course you are, because people and animals got washed away. And as that water recedes, that's where they are. There are going to be bodies found for weeks. There may never be everybody found. There may be people who were in Asheville, North Carolina, that were washed away that are found in Virginia somewhere because of the water flow. This is going to be awful for a long time. And they're going to need our help for a long time, because one of the biggest problems with these natural disasters is everybody's in there all at once for the first couple of weeks, and then they go away. But the people who are still affected are still living there and still trying to recover. There's still people in Hawaii, for heaven's sakes, that don't have. Remember when all the fires were happening in Hawaii and the island was devastated? There's still people over there that haven't. It's not recovered yet. So what happens is you get this big influx of emotion and everybody's trying to help, and then they run to the next event. These communities may never be rebuilt, and I say may as in might, not they can't or aren't allowed. What is rebuilt is just going to be so much different. The history that has been washed away, the damage that's been done to these communities, it's absolutely insane. And the fact that we're not seeing more from our federal government is something that we all need to remember. This needs to sear in our brains, the slow response by this federal government, because maybe the next administration does it better, but the next one after that may not. There is no way on planet Earth that these folks in Asheville, and I say Asheville because it's the elephant in the room. It's the one that's right there. It's the one, and there's tons of smaller communities that are just as effective, but we don't know because they're small. Asheville is the big community, but there's absolutely no way, if you've seen some of the videos of how that water come down those mountains and wash those communities away, you can't be prepared for that. You can't. We try as homesteaders, we try as preppers, and I use those little air quotes here for those of you on the audio, to be prepared for just about everything. And I was talking to Dad a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this a little bit. And I said, there's no way you can be ready for that. You can try, you can think you're ready, but when that water comes and you think it's time, I've got to get out, you may be 5 minutes too late. And by the time you get your car packed and you start heading out, here comes that wall of mud, because there's been a slip or a landslide, or just the volume of water that comes down, because that water is building from the head of the hollow, the head of the mountain or valley. It's building, because every little bit it goes further, there's that much more water coming, and it just keeps coming and just keeps adding, and it's just a big wall of water, and it can just wash you away, and there's no way you can be ready for it. And I was telling Dad, I said, if Bluestone Dam had gone, about the best we could have hoped for was to get to the 4-lane and pray that the 4-lane in this valley that we live in is wide enough that if we were up on the 4-lane, interstates or US Route 60 here in front of the house, that if we could get up there, we would be all right. But we would watch. If Bluestone Lake had gone, or Bluestone Dam had failed and all that water had come out, it would have taken this community off the map too. Might we have had a little more heads up? Maybe. But you can't pack your whole home and be gone. We like to say that we're packed and we got our go bag and we're ready for whatever. But you can't you can't guarantee that. Why won't this stop? Stop it. Stop it. I've got a thing trying to kick on and I keep trying to turn it off. There's just no way. And the stories of the people who are missing, who were washed away, they might never be found. There's going to be cemeteries that were washed away. There's going to, we saw the story of the hospital that was trying to airlift people out. It's just, there's just no way to be 100% ready for everything, but we have to be ready for what we can. I said I was going to touch a little bit about Israel. I am only to say this. I support Israel. Full stop. We're coming up just a few days from here is going to be the anniversary of the slaughter on October 7th, 2023. On October the 6th, 2023, there was no battles raging. There were no bombs being lobbed back and forth from anybody. There was an understood ceasefire. There was a tentative peace. It may have been a little sketchy. I mean, Israel doesn't agree with all of its neighbors, and that's a big part of this problem. But what happened on October 7th of 2023 was a slaughter, just flat out. And I have no issue with Israel protecting itself at any cost. Whatever they got to do, they got to do. You don't just go up and start bombing somebody. I kind of feel that way about Ukraine too. I mean, Ukraine was a seedy little place before Putin invaded, but he didn't have any business going in there. Those lines had been drawn a long time ago and should have just been left alone. There was no active war. There wasn't an active battle, property lines or boundaries. Had no business going in there. Unfortunately, the United States has given so much money to Ukraine, just Ukraine by itself, that now we don't have any money to take care of it. Well, actually, while I'm on that topic, the United States doesn't have any money. If all of our credits was called in right now, we couldn't pay the debt. We couldn't pay the debt. And you know what it means when you can't pay your debts? When you have more debt than you could ever think you could get paid off? It's an undeclared bankruptcy. The United States doesn't have enough money, doesn't have enough assets to pay the debts that we owe. And it's a shame, a dirty shame. And now we have thousands of people who need their federal government to step in and do what it's supposed to do, which is protect its people first and foremost. That is the job of the federal government, is to protect its people. And I understand that FEMA has said, oh, here's $750 for people who can't access their bank accounts, for people who don't have electricity, for people who don't have a vehicle, for people who don't have food, don't have a refrigerator, for heaven's sakes. Oh, here's $750. The priorities in this country are insane. And we need to get straightened back up. And that's my lecture on that. I really don't like to be, I don't like to get on here and do this angry conservative, angry American, mad at everything around. But honestly, it's so frustrating to sit here and look at what has happened and know that you've been speaking out about it. You've been writing your letters and you've been calling your congresspersons and all of this, saying this is stupid, it's got to stop. And they just don't. They just do whatever they want. But listen, I will never tell you, as a citizen of the United States of legal voting age, with the legal right to vote, I will never tell you not to vote. The reason we're in this mess, in my opinion, is because so many people don't vote. So many people who are legally eligible and able to vote don't do it. When we let 10% of the voting population of this country decide for the rest of us, because we just throw up our hands and say, ain't no point in voting, it's all a scam. Yeah, they're allowed to get away with it because so many people don't vote. That's how democracy dies, to paraphrase a character, with applause. We're a republic, I get it. But we've got to do better, and we've got to make an effort, and we've got to stop throwing off our hands and saying, well, it doesn't matter, because it does matter. It does. So I ran over an hour. I don't like to do that, but there's going to be some links in the description here in a little bit for you. One's to Samaritan's Purse, and maybe a couple other decent nonprofits that you can give to and things. But I'll leave you with this, if I can, if I may. If I can, but may I? Make an effort this year, please. If you can still register, if you're not registered to vote and you still have time to register, because I don't know what all the rules are in all of the states in the United States and our territories that are allowed to vote. If you haven't missed the deadline, please, please go register. And please, please go vote for common sense. And as some are saying, well, it's just the lesser of two evils. Yeah, it is. But there's no perfect man. There was only one perfect man, and he was crucified for his perfection, and actually for our salvation, but that's a different story. There is no perfection, but there's one that's closer to what we need than the other. And I want to encourage you to go out and vote. And it's not just at the national level. There are things happening at the local level that we can stop. Okay, maybe when you get to the national level, our votes are diluted by a million other people's votes. But at the local level, at the local sheriff level, for instance, vote for a sheriff that's going to uphold the Constitution. Okay, vote for a school board that's going to teach the kids the way you want your kids taught. Even if you homeschool, your homeschooler is going to be surrounded by people that are taught in public education. So you want to vote for people who are going to teach the kids the way you think they should be taught. All the way up and all the way down, even to the dog catcher. You want a dog catcher that's going to use some common sense, okay? And not walk to the fence with their high heels on crooked and say, oh, I can't pick up it. Just, it matters. It really matters. It matters so much more at the local level, but it also matters at the national level, because we elect people at the local level to represent us at the national level. You know it. You know that I'm not telling you anything new. If you're listening to this, if you got this far and you're listening to this, I'm not telling you anything new. But for heaven's sakes, think of all the people. Do it this way. Think of all the people who are dead because of that hurricane, who won't be able to vote. Vote on their behalf for somebody who's going to hold FEMA accountable, for somebody who's going to boot a character like Mayorkas and put somebody in there who's got a little bit of sense. Okay? With that, I'm going to stop. Julia, if you're still out there, I thank you. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you for swinging by and at least saying hello. I really appreciate that. For those of you, I see there's a few of you watching, and I really appreciate that too. Don't forget, please like and share and subscribe and all those things. I don't get on here as often as I was before. See, thank you, Julie. I love it. Thank you so much. I don't get off. I don't do lives as often as I did before. Things have really taken over, and I just can't balance it yet, but I keep striving to get back at that, to get back to a regular routine of lives. And I have doing a lot of shorts and things like that to try to keep people informed on what's going on. But I am going to try to do better. I promise I'm going to try to do better. I haven't uploaded shorts to the podcast or anything, so people on the audio won't know anything about that. But I am going to try, and I want to invite you back. If you subscribe, then you'll get a notice of when I'm planning to go live again. I try to set these up at least the day before. Rumble restricts you to 24 hours at the level that I'm on. I'm not paying for. If I paid for the higher level all access versions of everything, I'd be so broke. I'd be I'd be a fat old woman on the corner street trying to never mind. Anyways, thank you guys for stopping in. And I'm going to close it out now. And please, in whatever way you choose to do it, I'm not going to try to tell you have to send cash, but in some way, please support the recovery efforts, especially of this particular hurricane. It's just been more devastating than any that we've had in a long time. And I really appreciate you, and I look forward to talk to you again. Please put your comments, even if you watch this later. Please put some comments and let me know what you think. Please don't be rude. Can I say that? Can I say please don't be rude without you being rude? Because there's some people who will be rude just for the fun of it. But anyways, I'm going to go now. I have a lot to get done, and I'm sure you do too. And I do appreciate you being here. And I look forward to your feedback sometime again soon. So let me remove that and let me say goodbye. And I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
So there you have it. Post your comments, do all that boosting, liking, sharing, thumbs up, and stuff that helps spread the word and poke the algorithms. Follow me on most of the big social media platforms and look for my name, Robin Holstein, or Holstein House. Till next time, bye-bye.